One. What's up, boys? Joe Throws Podcast, Episode 4. Got a really special guest today. Glad to join by Stephen Friscia. Steve, how are we doing today?
Oh, Joey, I'm doing great. I'm
Yep.
excited to be on the pod today. It's an honor.
Yep.
Ready to go.
Yeah, let's get right into it then. Steve, I won't introduce yourself for you. You want to introduce yourself to everybody?
Yeah, I'm Stephen Friscia. I was a teammate of Joey's for 2 years, my junior and senior year. I now coach at Vermont State University, Linden, assistant coach over there, and I also work as a science teacher at a local high school, and that's it, man.
It's big stuff. Big. So obviously I want to hear your story leading up from all the way from your when you were a little kid to like now, even post college career. Like how was that like, leading all the way up, the bumps and bruises of your career?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like most kids who go on to play college baseball, start at a young age. You fall in love with the game when you're 6, 7, 8 years old, and you kind of grow from there. I was fortunate enough from probably when I was 8, 9 years old to about 14 years old to have my dad as my head coach. So that was a great experience. Him and we talk baseball still to this day. So that's something
Yeah.
that's super awesome. And I started playing a little bit more competitive baseball around like 14, 15, played, high school ball, JV, a couple years varsity. And then, when it was the time to decide, college, what do I want to do with, what do I want to do with my life? I'm looking around and, I found at the time, NVU Linden, which is now VSU Linden. But,
Yeah.
I came up for a visit, met the coach at the time, Coach Tang, and just kind of fell in love with the campus, kind of met a couple guys, and now this is my home.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Was was baseball always a huge part? Obviously, you already said that, but like was like playing the game, was it just always in your blood?
I would say so. I mean, from a young age, like I have a younger brother who plays baseball. My dad, helped coach, so like it's been around. My whole family loves baseball, so like kind of since I was born, it's been a thing that's been in our family, something that has just become a norm for us almost.
Yeah. Yeah. So talk to me about like high school, like how obviously freshman year, like were you always this tall and like a big guy, like yoked, or were you just did everything you have to, come through hard work? Like how was that leading up to college for like the recruitment process to like talk to coaches? Did you talk to other schools, anything like that?
Yeah, so I mean, I was fortunate enough to always be a tall kid. I think I was,
Yeah.
5'10", 6 feet by seventh, eighth grade. So, at that time I hit a growth spurt way earlier than a lot of kids. So, seventh, eighth grade, high school baseball or middle school baseball, I'm mashing baseballs compared to these kids who are, 5'5".
Yeah.
So, it gave me a little bit of early confidence, I would say. And then through high school, I definitely was not a heavy set kid, but definitely bigger than most kids. Which I had a bit more power. That was kind of my game. That's was my game in college a little bit as well. So
Yeah.
yeah, so that was kind of that aspect of it. And then looking at colleges, I was in between a couple. I didn't really know what I wanted to do at first, major wise. So I was just kind of looking. I looked Linden, I looked at Thomas actually, which is one of our rivals, funny enough, and a
Yeah.
couple upstate New York schools since that's kind of where I'm from, New York area. So
Yeah. Yeah. So um so what about, your first year in Linden? That was the COVID year, right? That was 2020
yeah,
or was that
yep, that
so
was 19 2020.
so that yeah, that's crazy, man. So like talk to me about like how COVID was how that impacted your first year and impacted you, as a player and as a person. Like how did that impact you being around the guys with that?
Yes. So I mean, like any freshman year, change is scary. It's new. I know you get the same thing. I moved from 6.5 hours away. I can't imagine what flying from Florida up to Vermont.
Yeah, it was
With that
tough.
cold weather. So
Yeah.
it was good. You just you got to find your clique when you get here, like your group, freshmen obviously try and stick together, but going down to the field the first couple of days, you're trying to feel out, all right, like what is this all about? What guys, what guys gravitate towards me, what guys do I gravitate towards, and figuring that stuff out. And you know, as the season went on, you got fall ball, you go through that. Your first fall ball is always an interesting experience because you never know what you're getting into at first. And then yeah, so springtime comes around. I wouldn't say I came back in the best shape after fall ball, which we'll get into a little bit more. But yeah, so then you go down. We did a Florida break trip or spring break trip down to Florida, and you play your 10 games down there. I think didn't go how we wanted it to, and then you come back up. We start practicing for 2 weeks, and that's when the whole world shut down. So your world kind of just stops in the blink of the eye. I know you had that in high school ball too, and it's just crazy.
Yeah, it was definitely a wild time. So yeah, like, let's get back to like what you were talking about a little bit about your weight and like other stuff like that. Like I remember when I first met you, and you were in great shape to me, and a few guys that I remember, few guys I remember telling me, saying that you weren't always like that, and how did that you make that transition from changing your like who you want to be like you know on the outside, obviously on the inside you're one of my favorite teammates ever, but how did you make that change to like push yourself to do that?
Yeah. So when I first came to college, I sat around like 210, 205 on a good day, in that range. And I thought that was a good weight for me, coming in. Um, my goal obviously was to kind of stay around there, maybe put on a little bit of muscle, that stuff. And it was my first time really being away from home, being on my own. So, the freedom of dining hall, the freedom of all that stuff. Went a little crazy, maybe jumped up to around 260-ish. So definitely didn't sit at the weight I wanted to for a while. So we went down to Florida, and that was kind of an eye-opening, like, man, like I did not prepare myself well enough to be a college baseball player at this point. Like I just wasn't mobile behind the plate catching and even just swinging, like couldn't get around myself. So COVID for a lot of people was a hard time. For me, it was kind of almost a blessing of a restart where I got to go home, for a couple of months, and I'm fortunate enough. My parents were in the same boat. They didn't like the way they were feeling, the way they were looking, and the three of us decided to make a change together, which it really helped having someone else going through it with you, someone else supporting you through the whole thing. And by the time I got back to campus, I think I was around like 190, 185 in the fall of that year, my sophomore year. So
Wow. Yeah, that's impressive, man. That takes a lot of courage. Um, yeah, I think I remember seeing a photo of you from like fall ball your sophomore year, and you were like, I mean, I'm not saying you were skinny, but like you were definitely like leaned out a ton.
yeah,
So that's
yeah.
that's that's so yeah, I mean that was cool to see, obviously, guy like you for sure. That's good stuff right there. So you were talking about like, hard to get how hard was it being away from home when you first went to college up here?
It was definitely a little bit of a change. I mean, I definitely when I was looking for schools wanted something a little farther away. You don't realize how far like a 6 hour drive, 6.5 hour drive is until you do it a couple times.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, it was definitely hard. I'm close with both my parents, my sister and brother, so I'm fortunate enough to have all those connections. But when you first go
Yeah.
away, it's a little hard when you feel like you're on your own for a little bit until you make those first couple friends. Just trying to find your way, find what who you want to be in your new setting, almost.
Yeah, for sure. Sure. So so when you first came to Linden, were you more of like a quiet dude, or were you like always that leader, that that positive guy, that positive reinforcement? Because I mean, I don't know how many times we can get into this a little bit more later, but this guy I'm on with right here, he would always give me positive reinforcement after couldn't throw a strike for about 25, 30 pitches. And he was the only guy that had my back for that. Not even just me, the whole team. Like, did you always were you always that positive a kid?
I would say so. Yeah. I mean, I definitely once I got to London, I was very quiet when I first got here. I mean, like I'm a person who kind of likes to feel out the surroundings, feel out the setting, see who like the leaders of the group are before, I make that choice of what I want to become. And I think I gravitated towards more of the older guys when I got here, um, which I think helped me kind of follow under their wings. I know I took a lot of reps in my first fall at first base, and one of our former first basemen is kind of a leader, captain guy. So I really looked up to him um, my freshman year, and kind of, you know, as things got rolling, as I got into my sophomore, junior year, I kind of, I was like, all right, this is kind of the team, and I want to be someone who can make an impact, not just with play, but as a leader almost as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I remember actually my freshman year, you were a junior, and that was the year where we had what, 25 guys, maybe not 25. We had over 20 come in for recruits. And,
Yep.
the year before, you guys only had what, 19 or 20. And, how did you, how big of a change was that for Linden baseball in general? Like, you were a part of it. Like, I wasn't. I didn't know Linden baseball until my freshman year. Like, how big of a difference did that change everything?
It's massive. I mean, when you almost double your roster size in one between spring and fall, I mean, it's gonna make a huge difference. And that kind of plays into the whole leadership point. Like at that point, it's not like I had much of a choice. Like when you got 20 new guys in, like you got to have a couple established leaders. And I had a couple older guys, a fifth year rider who you talked about,
Yeah. Yeah.
Matty Bro, sorry,
Yeah.
Matty Brault, call him his right name. Um, TJ Coop. So, you had a couple
Yeah.
guys and you just got to run with it at that point, right? You gotta run with it. You gotta make sure all these guys are bought in, ready to go, feel like, they have that family when they first walk on and establishing that kind of build.
Yeah. I think you guys did a really good job of bringing in that family culture. Like, you guys always were positive. Like, every single person I met when I first came was positive. Um, was it like that when you were a freshman as well?
Yeah, for sure. It's almost weird. It's kind of like a different positive. Like I feel like now we're a very close knit family, like that stuff. I feel like when I was a freshman, it was a lot of like, all right, let's see if this guy can joke around a little bit, and we'll see, if he can handle a little push and a little nudge here. And
Yeah.
I don't know. I like that. I like kind of how we built the program up to what it is today, and it's evolved. I think it's evolved positively. I think that has something to do with the new guys we bring in every year. The coaching staff, the changes in coaching. So there's a lot of different variables that play into it there.
Yeah. I completely agree. Every year is different for me. Mindset wise and feeling wise, I don't feel the same, for the team. Like, I feel like every year we have a different team, and it's like this year, I got some big goals for the fellas. I feel like fellas
Yeah.
up north, we're gonna be a good squad. So, you know, your senior year, you come, you get, a new coach, you get more young guys, and it's even more, it's chaotic, obviously, and you love that, but you're like the actual senior captain. It's you. It's you and you. It's just you and TJ and Matty Brault and those guys. And there's so much negativity in baseball now. And how did you deal with guys that struggled to understand failure versus guys that you could just you didn't have to talk to as much? Like, how do you deal with that type of behavior, especially now in today's game?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a huge part of what the game is today. I mean, especially with social media, being able to check your stats, compare yourself to other people. I think that's, a huge thing. And trying to figure that out is all right, what type of guys am I working with here? I have guy A, for example, who, it's a little more quiet, a little more reserved. You got to kind of push him to, open up, talk about, what's going on with his at bats, his approach, all that stuff. And then you got type guy B over here who, will let you know how he's feeling about every single thing. So it's almost like a trying to manage personalities and figure out, all right, how can I get the best out of guy A and the best out of guy B and still, bring those two together as a team.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's a lot different now. I think especially when I was younger, 100% when you were younger, it was like everybody was coached the same. I mean, I would hope so. I don't know. Like if
Mm-hmm.
baseball is obviously different from Florida, but definitely I feel like everybody was coached the same. There was no difference, and you can't just get the same. Now it's like you have to give everybody else a different perspective, especially if it's one on one, in my opinion. So
Yeah.
yeah. So I mean, obviously, you never won or never. Did you make the playoffs at
No.
Linden?
Nope.
So, how tough were those? Like, I know you probably don't want to get into this, but how tough were those years? Like every year when we weren't making playoffs, like what was your feeling right when like the game ended?
Man, like at the end of the day, it sucks. Like, the point of one of the points of playing sports is winning and that feeling of winning and um it sucks. But when you have the right group of guys and you're doing the right thing every day, you're supporting each other, going out there, it makes it a little better. Um it's hard, you got to build yourself back up every once in a while because
Yeah.
my freshman year we started the season 0-10 down in Florida, and then COVID, and then my sophomore year I think we started 0-5, 0-6. So I'm a sophomore, played almost 30 something games, and we're 0-25, 0-26. So it's like, man, are we gonna get this first win? Like, am I gonna go 0 for my whole college career? Obviously, it's not actually a thought, but it's you have those little things that float in your head sometimes,
It's
and
self doubt. It's just that self doubt, Steve.
yeah, and you get that first win, and it was like, man, like that's the best feeling in the world, and it almost becomes like an addiction. Like, man, I'm craving this now. Like, I got one, I want another, and that's the same thing that you hope everyone on the team has that hunger for winning, that same drive.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure, for sure. Um, do you think that there's a difference between this year's team and any teams from the past years in Linden that you've been around the guys for?
Yeah, I mean, I want to say there's almost like a different energy, a different feeling with this group of guys. Like I think, it's a very interesting, first year class that we got. A lot of guys I feel like have bought in from the start. See them in the weight room, see them taking extra reps, like doing the little things that matter to help you win. Um, yeah, I think there's a different feeling. I think guys have a lot of optimism or are really excited to get going, really excited for the season. I know I am. I know all the coaches are.
Yeah,
So I
for sure.
mean, it's a good feeling.
Yeah. Yeah, being on the coaching staff, was that always something you wanted to do for the Hornets? Or when
I
did
think so. I want to say like was it something that I always like thought about was coaching? No, but you also never think about when your last baseball game is ever going to be. So,
Yeah.
until that moment comes, you're like, all right, I'm still playing. I still got some juice left. I got games left. And then until, it all stops, you're like, man, I'm not ready to give this up. Like
Yeah,
I
that's coming quick for me, dude. Like this year, like it's crazy. It's crazy. It's my last year, you know.
yeah,
I remember when I first, met all the guys my freshman year, and now it's like it's my last dance,
yeah, goes quick.
Goes
But
quick. And I tell everybody the same thing that you told me. Like I you know, I, if there's one guy that I took the most from, it was definitely you. I probably like see you as someone that I was so similar to me in like, that aspect of life with mental health and,
mhm.
working hard and always wanting to be positive. And that's someone I looked up to you for a long time. I still do. And it's like, and it's like, dang man, like I'm my last year. This guy's a freaking coach for our team now. It's funny. It's funny.
Yeah, it goes quick, Joey, but I appreciate it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because you were
That,
definitely
that's really nice to hear from you. And
yeah, you're definitely
so
one of my favorite teammates.
thank
Definitely,
you, thank you,
probably top three, and not
thank
three. Yeah, yeah. No, but so being a coach now, so how is that different from being a player? How does that how is that different for you?
I would say, I mean, from a leadership standpoint, I think it's very similar. I've tried to carry over almost kind of that same positive attitude, that same positive outlook. I'd say the biggest difference, honestly, would be just like the change in how you talk to players. Like, obviously you have they're your teammates one day and then graduate and now you're coaching them. So you can't have that same exact relationship, but I really have tried to keep like an open relationship. Like I want people to feel comfortable coming to me, talking
Yeah,
about, I'm struggling with this and whatever's going on and a little bit of banter back and forth. I want guys to feel comfortable to come talk to me when they're struggling, when they're feeling good. Um, and really just like the biggest difference I've seen is when you're a player. So when you're a leader, you know how it is. You're looking after other guys, making sure they're doing their work. Try, see how can I help this guy get better, all that. But you still have to work on your craft. You still have to get better yourself. And now that you're a coach, man, all I got to do is just push you guys, keep getting you guys better. I don't have to get
yeah,
myself better at playing, at least. Coaching wise, I still got to get better and still got to learn more. But I don't have to work on that craft. I have to work on a different craft.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I completely agree. Yeah, I remember there's a story I'm going to tell you right now, and I think you're exactly know to remember this. I remember it was at Norwich. You're junior. I was a sophomore, so you were a senior, right?
Senior year, yeah.
Yeah, I remember that was like the lowest I've ever felt in my life. I think you caught my pen before I went out on the mound, and I remember that, and I remember after I came out, I think I threw like 30 pitches, and I think I threw like 27 balls, and I think the only person that talked to me after I came out was you, and like I completely respect you for that. All all open ears for anything, the highs, the lows, and that's just a player that's like the type of teammate you want. You want a guy that always comes up to you, good, bad, and always tells you the truth, but like is there for you during your worst times. And dude, I mean, that was an all-time low for me. Like I was one of the worst like days ever, like of my
Yeah.
life. And like you were that guy that was there for me. So that was one of the coolest things ever. And now it's like I look back at that, I'm like, damn, like that was so long, ago, but like it wasn't. And now
Mm-hmm.
I like it just the progression you have as a person each year is different. And now we're still like buddies, which is sick.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like sick.
I
It's
mean,
sick to me. Gives me a good little shake in my stomach. You know what I mean?
yeah. Yeah. And I mean,
Sick,
like,
dude.
dude,
Sick.
pitching, you're all alone out there as it is.
Yeah.
And when you're struggling, you feel it more. So
Oh yeah.
like spotlight's on
Yeah.
you, man. If you're struggling out there and you come out, someone's got to be there to pick you up. At least sit there for a minute, get whatever you're going through your head out of there. I mean, you're gonna be upset for a little bit, but you
Yeah.
gotta have a way to clear it.
That's what I try to do now. Honestly, like I don't want anyone to go through what I went through. I don't want anyone to do what I did, and I want like everyone to understand like it's so much easier than it had than I made it. So that's the biggest lesson like I could give to any baseball player is like my story like I think could help a lot of guys out. And I try to do that every day with like all the pitchers, all the hitters, you know. I'm not going to say any names from our team, but I would, I try my best to help those guys because I learned from what you said to me, and it resonated to me and I still use it every day. So,
Yeah, just got to keep passing the torch. Giving as
yeah,
much
just got to keep
information as
passing
you
the
got.
torch. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what's your favorite moment as a Hornet so far?
Oh man, putting me on the spot a little bit here, Joey. I don't know. Man, I got a lot of good moments. I loved being a Hornet. Like it's one of the
Yeah.
highlights. I'm gonna tell my kids about it one day. And um, Man, I mean, my favorite moment is my senior year down in Massachusetts. We were playing Fisher. Um, and I hadn't hit a home run in probably 2 years, and I was struggling at that point in my senior year a little bit. I was hitting probably 190 at that point. Um, my parents drove up from Long Island to come watch. My uncle and aunt drove up. First time they've seen me play probably since I was like 14, and ended up hitting a 3-run home run. We lost the game unfortunately, but just
Yeah.
having that moment, having you know my parents there who have been probably my biggest supporters through my whole career, and my aunt and uncle who've really never haven't seen me play in a long time. Just having my family there and seeing that moment was it was surreal to me.
Yeah, that's beautiful, man. That's beautiful. Yeah. I think like like seeing like your family seeing you play, it's like a surreal moment, even if it's like we're Division 3, but like, dude, like we're still like playing college baseball. And it's like I remember that. That ball was pissed on. That ball was
Yeah.
absolutely that was a bomb. Like I that wasn't coming back.
No,
So yeah.
it's a cool moment, and I'm sure you get it too. Like being far away, and us going down to Florida this year. Hopefully, your family can come watch you pitch a little
Yeah.
bit. But it's a cool
Yeah.
feeling. Like you don't get it
Yeah.
very often.
Yeah, I mean, I'll never forget when my freshman year when we went to Florida, my dad and my grandma came, and I remember after the game, it was the game you caught me. I don't remember who we played, but I think we were shaking with the guys, and my grandma waved at me, and I waved back. I'll never forget that.
Yeah,
Never forget that. That was one of my favorite moments ever.
and
But
that's the best part of baseball. Making memories, and
yeah,
my dad always says you learn so much more from the game than you think you do. That you take from
yeah,
just the game into life, and it's one of my favorite sayings.
it's true, 100%. Like, what do you take away from the game then? What do you take away from the game from like into life scenarios?
Man, just like God, good questions, Joey. Put me on the spot like 3 times today. Um, and just that failure is okay as long as you learn from it, and don't make the same mistake twice.
Yeah,
It's okay to fail. Baseball is a game of failure. You're gonna have failures in life, and it's how you respond, how you pick yourself back up and carry yourself. Um, yeah, like things are gonna happen. Things aren't gonna go your way. I mean, baseball, if you fail 6 or 7 times, you're elite, right? So like
yeah.
at least hitting wise, pitching, you guys are weirdos, but uh,
Hey man, I still hey, come on.
sometimes. But if you fail, 6, 7 times, you're elite, and that's pretty. That's a lot of failure all at once. So same thing with life. You're gonna have ups and downs, but it's how you pick yourself up and carry yourself.
Yeah, man. So when baseball was tough, like who did you go to, or like what did you do to overcome those times?
And I will say my dad and I have had lots of conversations, lots of talks about baseball, about life, and just figuring out ways to ride the ship, make things work. Same with my mom. She's another one of my big supporters, just talking on the phone, just even if it's not about baseball, just to have someone who is there to listen, to support you, all that stuff. Same with my girlfriend right now. My junior and senior year, she was another big supporter. So just having that group of people who support you and, want to see you succeed as much as you want to succeed and push you in
Yeah,
that right direction.
yeah, that's good stuff, man. That's good. Yeah, because I feel like once you start to realize like people want you to win, is like that's when you have that like like okay, like I'm good enough to be here. I'm good enough to play here. It's like it's hard to find that by yourself. I feel like it's not easy
Yep.
to find that because people are so negative about this game.
Yep.
So
Yeah, I
yeah.
agree.
So when when you see like a guy that's like struggling at the plate, or you see a pitcher that's struggling, in the dugout after his outing, like, and they're throwing their stuff, they're having a bunch of problems, they're saying a bunch of good slurs out there. What
Yeah.
is what did you do to like either calm them down, or like what would you do in that situation? Because that's something, I think a lot of guys need to realize like how to take care of that situation. Like, how did you do that when, you saw your teammates failing? Like, how do you get them to get back to where they are, like confidence wise?
I mean, I think there's different ways to go about it. I think during the game, just a quick like, hey man, you're all right, like stay in it, another at bat, another inning, you know, all that stuff. Just trying to reiterate, positive reinforcement, keep positive thoughts going through people's minds. Um, and then, after the game, that's where you have some of the bigger conversations like, hey man, what's your approach right now? What are you thinking when you're up at the plate? What are your cues in your head when you're on the mound? Like, where is your confidence at? Like those type of questions. Just feeling people out. And then, that's how the bigger conversations open up. Like, if someone's really not feeling confident and they're trying to fake it right now, you have a conversation of, all right, how can we make you feel a little better about yourself? How can we pump you up a little bit? And same thing if, I mean, throwing stuff's a little different. I have not as much tolerance for that. I was never a big thrower or punch. Well, depends on the day, but
Yeah,
yeah. So
I saw you one
it's
time do that,
yeah, maybe once,
but
but and it's not because they're doing it for the wrong reasons, man. They're passionate. Like I get it. So their reasoning is right. It's just trying to find a different outlet for that type of stuff.
yeah, I like the way you said that outlook. Yeah, you gotta have a better window, you know, instead of just always, going back to the same negative route of just throwing your stuff and, complaining about the umpire, complaining about the pitcher or whatever, like keeping things in your control. And it's so hard to like be in that all the time. Um, I got probably one or two more questions and then we can wrap it up. But this
Yeah,
one's probably a long one. But so obviously we go to school. Like we both went to school in Linden, Vermont, which is a very rural area. There's nothing really around here. There's nothing to
yeah,
do. There's nowhere to go. There's no bars. There's the food restaurants. They're good, but there's not many, and they close very early compared to like where a lot
yeah.
of people are from. So why is it so? How do you bring like everyone together as a team through the fall into the winter and then for the spring? Like, how do you get everyone to stay locked in or bought into the process of Linden baseball? Like, there's so many guys that we've lost, and obviously we won't mention names, but there's so many guys we've lost in the last couple of years, and it's like, how do you get those guys to like not leave and like stay on campus here, or live off campus?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely hard. When we don't have the bright shiny toys that, some of these other places do, but I think that's what makes us us, I think that's what makes us so unique and so special is that, you know, we don't get on the field till whenever May, April, May, whenever. And, but that's how you keep guys around is, hey man, like we're already this good without any of the stuff that these other places have. Why don't we just continue to grind, continue to do all these great things that we have? And why don't we just go mess around and win a championship? Like it's all the same buy-in from, it starts at the top for coaches and it trickles on down. And, we have a lot of great committee coaches that are here for you guys, for here for, this program. And I think just making sure everyone feels heard, everyone feels, part of this family, that everyone, brings something to the table every day.
Yeah, yeah, I completely agree with that. I think that's huge because there are guys that you lose and like you're like, dang, like we needed that guy or we want to keep everybody, but it's so hard, obviously, with
Yeah.
D3 ball and building off of that, like you talked a little bit about grinder, like what makes a Linden grinder a D3 grinder, as we like to say all the time. We've talked about it all the time. We don't have all the nice equipment, but what makes us different than like other schools or like other places?
Man, I think we're just unique. Like we come in every day and, you work your butt off and you're with the same 40 guys every day grinding, from early in the morning practices, late at night practices, traveling on the bus, sitting next to, someone new every time, just cramming in the hotel rooms, Um, my favorite trips as a college baseball player were, the trips down to Virginia and the trips to Presque Isle, Maine, where they're 8 hours, 17 hours. That's the time you bond on the bus, man. That's the time you make some good memories. You joke around. That's when you get to see the real personalities of people, and that's how you get the buy-in. That's how you start interacting, and kind of goes like that.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that was how it was for me, at least. I completely agree with you. Steve, I got one question, and then we'll wrap this up. So, who is
Yeah.
your favorite teammate of all time at Linden? You don't gotta
Oh
say
man,
you can't. You don't gotta say me.
my
You can
favorite
just
teammate.
you can just list a few, but if you I would just list one. Just
See, I'll list a few here because it's the same thing I'll say to my students. I don't have a favorite. I have a couple that I like a little bit more than others. But um, I think as a player, Joey, I loved interacting with you. You were one of my top guys, and you know that.
yeah.
My boy Sticks. That's my guy, my ride or die guy, TJ.
Yes, sir.
Same with Coop, Timo. I mean, all the guys I live with. Those are kind of, I got a couple guys that are still on the team that I won't, blow their heads up a little too much. But um,
Yeah, right.
I there really weren't many guys that I didn't like playing with. And that's just kind of how I tried to be. I tried to
Yeah.
find the good in everyone and just try and pump up somebody a new way every day. So
Steve, I hope my kid ends up like you, man.
uh, that's a big compliment, Joey. I appreciate that, buddy.
Yeah, I mean, always positive. Steve-O.
Try.
Well, Steve, I appreciate you taking time out of your day to be on the Joe Throws podcast, and
Absolutely. Anytime.
thank you so much. And we'll be done here right now.
Thank you, buddy.
See you, Steve. Yes, sir.
See you, Joey.